Welcome to Streaming News Network, where we deliver balanced reporting with the facts that matter. Morning Edition by J. Claude McDaniel. Please like and subscribe.
This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Despite spending more than 3 decades in Washington, Senator Lindsey Graham's personal wealth remained relatively modest compared to many of his congressional colleagues. Financial disclosure reports filed earlier this year estimated Graham's net worth at approximately $1.4 million, with reported assets ranging from just over $600,000 to slightly more than $2.2 million. His annual Senate salary was $174,000, and most of his investments were held in mutual funds and United States government bonds rather than individual stocks. Graham's life began far from the nation's political spotlight. Raised in central South Carolina, he spent much of his childhood living in a small room connected to his family's restaurant before the family later moved into a mobile home. Tragedy struck early when both of his parents died shortly after he began college, leaving the 22-year-old Graham to raise his 13-year-old sister. He went on to become the first member of his family to earn a university degree and later served in the United States Air Force before entering public service. Senator Graham died Saturday evening at the age of 71 following what his office described as a brief and sudden illness after returning from a trip to Ukraine. The District of Columbia Medical Examiner's Office has reported that the preliminary cause of death was a ruptured aorta associated with chronic heart disease. Friends say that even shortly before his passing, Graham remained focused on international policy and national security issues, reflecting the commitment that defined much of his public career. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A New Hampshire state representative is at the center of an ongoing legal dispute after challenging 2 speeding citations by arguing that legislative privilege protects her from enforcement while traveling to and from the state legislature. Representative Ellen Reed is accused of driving 107 miles per hour in a 65-mile-per-hour zone in December of 2024. Authorities also cited her during a separate traffic stop in June of the previous year after allegedly traveling 92 miles per hour on the same highway. According to court filings, Reed has argued that a provision in the New Hampshire Constitution grants lawmakers protection from arrest while traveling to or from legislative sessions. She has asked the courts to dismiss the charges, claiming the traffic stops violated that constitutional privilege. The New Hampshire Supreme Court declined to hear her appeal in June. Reed was previously found guilty of negligent driving in connection with the first incident and fined $1,240. A sentencing hearing is scheduled for August, while the second speeding case remains pending after a judge recused himself and a new trial date is being arranged. Law enforcement officials maintain that excessive speeding, particularly at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour, may constitute reckless driving under state law. Authorities also dispute the argument that legislative privilege exempts elected officials from routine traffic enforcement. Legal experts say the case could ultimately help clarify the limits of legislative privilege in New Hampshire and determine how broadly that constitutional protection applies to lawmakers traveling on official business. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. New developments have emerged following the controversial dismissal of former Indiana television meteorologist Alex Kirkhope. Over the 4th of July weekend, veteran chief meteorologist Jesse Walker shared photos on social media showing the two enjoying a boating trip together, signaling that they have remained close since Kirkhope's departure from WTWO television in Terre Haute. The outing comes just weeks after Walker publicly criticized the station's decision to end Kirkhope's employment before her contract expired. In a social media post, Walker described her as one of the best meteorologists he had worked with and suggested the decision had influenced his own thoughts about the future of his career. Kirkhope has alleged that station management monitored her conversations with Walker through security cameras, limited how long they could speak during work hours, restricted her social media activity, and pressured her to resign before ultimately terminating her employment. The station has not publicly addressed those specific allegations. Meanwhile, industry observers have noted that Walker recently launched a personal weather website, prompting speculation that he could be considering retirement or leaving the station. However, Walker has made no public announcement regarding any future plans. The controversy continues to attract attention within the broadcasting community, while viewers await any further statements from the station or its parent company. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Acclaimed New Zealand actor Sir Sam Neill has died at the age of 78. His family announced that he passed away in Sydney, Australia, surrounded by loved ones, describing his death as sudden and unexpected. They also noted that he remained cancer-free after successfully battling a rare form of blood cancer. Neill became a household name through his portrayal of Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, a role that introduced him to generations of moviegoers. During a career spanning more than 5 decades, he also earned acclaim for performances in The Piano, Peaky Blinders, The Hunt for Red October, and many other films and television productions. Born in Northern Ireland, Neill moved to New Zealand as a child and later became one of the country's most celebrated actors. He was knighted in 2022 for his contributions to the arts and remained active as a winemaker, environmental advocate, and author. His memoir chronicled his journey through cancer treatment and reflected his trademark humor and optimism. Tributes have poured in from fellow actors, filmmakers, and fans around the world, remembering Sir Sam Neill not only for his memorable performances but also for his warmth, generosity, and enduring influence on the film industry. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. California corrections officials are investigating the death of an incarcerated man at Kern Valley State Prison as a homicide following a violent altercation between 2 cellmates. According to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the incident occurred Saturday morning when correctional officers observed 2 incarcerated men fighting inside a prison cell. Staff immediately activated emergency procedures and ordered both men to stop. Officials identified the men as 39-year-old Giovanni Mendez and 41-year-old Sergio Villalobos. Authorities say Mendez did not comply with officers' commands, prompting staff to deploy pepper spray before restraining him. Medical personnel were called to the scene, and officers began life-saving measures on Villalobos before he was transported to the prison's treatment area. Despite those efforts, he was pronounced dead shortly before 11 o'clock that morning. Investigators recovered 2 inmate-manufactured weapons from the cell. Mendez has been moved to restricted housing while the prison's investigative services unit and the Kern County District Attorney's Office continue their homicide investigation. The California Office of the Inspector General has also been notified. According to prison officials, Villalobos was serving a life sentence with the possibility of parole following a first-degree murder conviction. Mendez is serving a 14-year sentence for assault with a firearm, including a firearm use enhancement. The investigation remains active, and officials have not released additional details regarding what led to the deadly confrontation. This is J. Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network. Actor Randolph Mantooth, best known for portraying firefighter-paramedic Johnny Gage on the groundbreaking 1970s television series Emergency, has died at the age of 80. Family members confirmed that Mantooth passed away Thursday at a hospice facility in Ventura, California. According to his family, he had battled cancer for several years after first being diagnosed in 2015. Born in Sacramento, California, Mantooth became one of television's most recognizable faces through Emergency, a series widely credited with increasing public awareness of modern emergency medical services and inspiring many viewers to pursue careers as firefighters and paramedics. Off-screen, Mantooth remained close friends with his castmates long after the show ended. His longtime co-star Kevin Tighe, who played firefighter Roy DeSoto, served as the best man at Mantooth's second wedding and remembered him as a genuine, hardworking person whose kindness made him a favorite both on and off the set. Throughout a career that spanned decades, Randolph Mantooth appeared in numerous television programs, films, and stage productions while remaining an advocate for first responders and emergency medical professionals. He is remembered not only for his memorable performances but also for the lasting impact his work had on generations of viewers and those inspired to serve their communities. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. The family of a 65-year-old man injured in a bison attack at Yellowstone National Park says he is recovering in the hospital after undergoing surgery. The incident occurred on July 10 at the Bridge Bay campground near Lake Yellowstone. According to the National Park Service, emergency responders quickly arrived on the scene before transporting the man to a nearby hospital. Video of the attack has circulated widely online. Witnesses say the man and his grandson had been observing the bison from a respectful distance when the animal suddenly became agitated. The man attempted to run for safety, but the bison caught up with him, striking him with its head and throwing him approximately 8 feet into the air. The photographer who recorded the incident said nearby campers immediately rushed to help, distracting the bison long enough for others to assist the injured man until emergency personnel arrived. Park officials continue to remind visitors that bison are wild animals capable of running up to 35 miles per hour and can become unpredictable without warning. Yellowstone is home to between 3,000 and 6,000 bison, the nation's largest continuously wild bison population. Authorities urge all visitors to maintain a safe distance from wildlife and follow park safety guidelines at all times. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A government ethics watchdog is calling for a state audit of California's free diaper program, raising questions about how a multimillion-dollar contract was awarded. The Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust has formally requested that California's state auditor investigate a $6.2 million no-bid contract awarded to the nonprofit organization Baby2Baby. The group also questioned a proposed $12 million contract extension included in Governor Gavin Newsom's latest state budget proposal. The organization alleges the contract process lacked transparency and has asked investigators to determine whether taxpayer funds were awarded fairly and whether the program represents a cost-effective use of public money. The diaper program, announced before Mother's Day, provides 400 free diapers to families leaving participating California hospitals, regardless of income. Questions have also been raised because one of Baby2Baby's chief executive officers serves on the board of a nonprofit founded by first partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom. Baby2Baby has stated that the board position is unpaid and played no role in the awarding or administration of the contract. California officials have maintained that multiple organizations were invited to participate in the selection process and that vendors were evaluated fairly. They have also said procurement exemptions were requested to ensure the program could begin without delay. Lawmakers from both political parties have called for greater transparency, while the requested audit could provide additional answers about the contracting process and the program's costs. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. The debate over changes to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly known as SNAP, continues as supporters and critics offer sharply different views of reforms included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Supporters argue the legislation does not eliminate the program but instead returns spending closer to pre-pandemic levels after temporary emergency expansions significantly increased benefits during the COVID-19 public health emergency. They also point to continued participation levels that remain above those seen before the pandemic. Another major provision shifts part of the financial responsibility for benefit payment errors to states with higher improper payment rates. Supporters say the change encourages greater oversight and accountability because states administer the program while the federal government has historically covered nearly all benefit costs. Critics, however, argue the funding reductions could make it more difficult for low-income families to afford groceries as food prices remain elevated. Some state officials and lawmakers have also questioned how payment error rates are calculated and have requested additional time before the new cost-sharing requirements take effect. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated the legislation will reduce federal SNAP spending over the next decade, while supporters maintain the reforms are designed to curb waste, improve program integrity, and preserve assistance for eligible recipients. The discussion is expected to continue as Congress considers future agriculture and nutrition legislation in the months ahead.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and our audio reports. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.